Hello and welcome back to the Wrestling Group on YouTube. Today we are taking another look at what if in wrestling. So what if something happened or what if something didn't happen in the history of the world of wrestling. Now, it's just like fantasy style, a look at things that could have happened, a look at things that couldn't have happened. It's also not a knock on some things that have happened. It's just more looking at different sides of things, mainly just for a bit of fun. So today we are looking at CM Punk. Seems so he's still a hot topic after being fired from AEW only recently. And we're looking at what if CM Punk had not have done that stage dive a week after beating Hangman Page for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship at Double or Nothing. If he hadn't done the stage dive on Dynamite and broke his foot and had to take, what was it, 8 to 9 months off, what would have happened? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. So obviously, CM Punk wins the AEW World Championship in the main event of Double or Nothing against Hangman Adam Page. He's then in a tag match on Dynamite, does the stage dive, which obviously he did on his return, which the fans seem to have loved at the time. But in doing so, he accidentally breaks his foot and has to take time off. Now, in the time he's off, there is an interim AEW World Championship created, which then Jon Moxley takes the reign with that, and obviously has another really good solid AEW World Title reign. Obviously, as the meme is now a big thing, Jon Moxley didn't get his holiday and didn't get his time off that he wanted to because he had to put the company on his back and run with it thanks to CM Punk getting injured. So, what are some of the things that we can look at? So, obviously, if CM Punk hadn't got injured, then he would have remained as champion, so the interim world championship wouldn't be a thing. Jon Moxley wouldn't be a AEW three-time world champion. The title started to feel a bit, I don't know, it sort of, obviously, like I say, because there was the interim world championship, it then didn't, because they kept like ramming it down your throat as well that it was an interim title. It didn't feel as big as it should have. What are we, about 3 years into the company at the time, and you've already got an interim world championship, so wasn't really good. I feel like they should have stripped the belt off him and just went with Mox being a normal world champ. But obviously, if Punk hadn't have got the injury, then we wouldn't have needed an interim champion. So that wouldn't have been a thing. We would have got the Summer of Punk, which was what they'd hyped up to, CM Punk. Obviously, then defending the AEW World Championship against numerous different competitors. He'd had some decent matches on his return. He could have faced Darby Allin again, this time for the world title. Obviously, at the dog collar match against MJF, that was phenomenal. He could have faced other people that were sort of on the fringes of could they come up, could they not, in the likes of obviously Wardlow, who's seemingly gone missing right now. So we could have got CM Punk, obviously, defending the championship, whether it be on normal Dynamite or Rampage, or he could have done it, obviously, via pay-per-views. I believe that we wouldn't have had the quote-unquote Rocky 3 squash match, which obviously happened when CM Punk returned to the company. He returned to obviously go head-to-head against the interim champion, Jon Moxley, which there wouldn't have been a need for. And obviously, if you believe it's been well reported now that it was, Jon Moxley's idea that, if he squashed CM Punk, and obviously solidified his reign as being AEW World Champion instead of just interim, and then obviously drops the belt like a couple of days later at the pay-per-view back to Punk. So then Punk then becomes two-time champ, Mox is a two-time champ, and then obviously CM Punk gets injured again in the pay-per-view match, and then we get Brawl Out. So obviously, if CM Punk's already the champ, not necessarily did he need to go against Mox. Like say, Mox could have then took his time off. Mox had already started a storyline, obviously, with with Bryan Danielson, and they were starting to get Blackpool Combat Club off to a good start. So again, we wouldn't even need to face Jon Moxley. And like I say, obviously we wouldn't need the squash match because Punk would be champ. So it wouldn't be like, obviously with the squash match, it was because Punk was coming back saying he was obviously still champ. And Mox obviously had the interim belt, so we wouldn't have needed that. Which obviously caused issues for CM Punk, as he believes that Mox was doing it to benefit himself instead of benefit storyline and obviously benefit CM Punk. So we wouldn't have needed that. You know, Hangman Page and CM Punk were already at odds. They were already head to head, because obviously in the build up to the Double or Nothing match at the pay per view, CM Punk was not happy with some words that Hangman used in a promo exchange between the two, where Hangman said he was saving AEW from CM Punk. Obviously, if you go back and watch that, CM Punk looks a bit dumbfounded, because obviously it wasn't planned, it wasn't suggested. You know, CM Punk says he goes off script and goes into work for himself, which in reality isn't likely. More the likelihood of what happened was obviously that Hangman Page is not great on the microphone. We know this. He's not great at promos. We know that too. And he's going against one of the best in the game. And obviously they're both trying to still come off as faces. So it's hard, isn't it? I feel like Hangman threw that out there, rather than it being a planned situation. I don't think he ever planned to say that CM Punk was, you know, this bad dude that AEW needed to protect him from. You know, like I say, CM Punk's supposed to be a babyface too. So I think in that regard, that if obviously, like I say, Punk hadn't got injured, do I think Punk would have still given Hangman like a quote unquote receipt? Yes, I do, but it wouldn't have been 9 months down the line where he just randomly comes out and calls Hangman Page out of the ring, known for well that he's in catering. It'd probably just been a throwaway comment, a throwaway mark, a little diss, a little jab. It wouldn't have been like that. I believe, obviously, with CM Punk having so much time out of AEW, it's then built up and built up and built up in his mind, and stewed in his mind and made him a lot more bitter than what he would have been if he'd have just reacted on it at the time. Plus, also, he had the chance to react on it, obviously, on the Dynamite after the pay-per-view where he obviously injured his foot. He didn't address the situation on that night, so maybe he wouldn't have addressed it at all. I know, obviously, it turned around, obviously, that Punk was bothered by the comments, but when did he become bothered by the comments? Because he clearly didn't seem to be that bothered on the Dynamite afterwards. Would he eventually have got to it? Maybe it'd have been Rampage, maybe it'd have been a week later. But like again, I say, I don't feel like it would have been as like bitter, and it's probably just been like a throwaway comment, or even if he had have say called them out, if you like, then you know they just faced at a pay-per-view then, so it would make sense for them to face again in a rematch. So it could have easily been turned into a storyline. So I don't think obviously Punk would have been as bitter and wouldn't have gone straight after Hangman. Like I say, he had the chance on that Dynamite, but then never did. So therefore, if there's not that much animosity between the two, then what happens? Obviously, after All Out, we get Brawl Out, and the main obviously situation as he goes, CM Punk takes crap on, you know, the Elite takes crap on, Hangman and stuff like that. So I believe that the idea was always for MJF obviously to win the casino chip and obviously go on to become AEW World Champion. But I believe that would have, in my mind, I believe that would have been at All Out against CM Punk. So CM Punk would have lost at All Out. He would have dropped the belt to MJF. That would have completed their storyline. He would have put MJF over, which I always believe CM Punk would, in a big way. Therefore, like I say, there's no major animosity between Hangman and Punk, and obviously he's not been, well, in his mind, screwed with the Rocky 3 squash match beforehand. So I believe obviously it won't be as bad as what it was. He probably wouldn't have gone into work for himself and started whipping on the Elite and Hangman and trying to bury basically everyone, and then they wouldn't have had the scuffle and the backstage issues that they then had, which then led to obviously Punk being suspended and the Elite being suspended. And don't forget, when they first come in, the Young Bucks and CM Punk made a big thing on social media of both praising each other, about how great the others were. So, I believe at some point they did have some sort of decent relationship. It might have turned a little bit sour after obviously Hangman made the comments of, CM Punk, basically him needing to save AEW from CM Punk, but I don't believe it would have built up if he's not sat at home for 8 to 9 months stewing in his mind, thinking that everyone's out to get him, people trying to bury him. I don't believe then that we would have had the situation we had. I feel like it'd have been dealt with a lot better. Like I say, we would have had MJF then going over CM Punk at All Out, which then obviously we have MJF still as the world champion, but we didn't need CM Punk to win the belt twice and never officially lose it. We wouldn't need CM Punk then to return with the real World Championship, which was obviously a joke, and we wouldn't even have AEW Collision, because as we all know, it's massively well reported that AEW Collision was mainly made for CM Punk, basically because of all the issues and stuff backstage between himself and the Elite and half of the roster, as it turns out. Cause like again, as I say, as he's then out suspended and again injured after winning the second belt, he then obviously is stripped from the belt. He then goes and starts to hate on Jon Moxley and hate on Chris Jericho through social media. So obviously that's not going to happen because he's just dropped the belt to MJF. He's not going to be injured because it's a completely different match. So I believe he wouldn't have been injured. And I also believe he wouldn't be angry and basically fed up with everyone. So there'd be no need for them to diss on them. Which then means, there's so many different things in play. That's, for me, a big part of it is if he hadn't got injured originally, then we wouldn't have had a lot of the fallout of what we did. Obviously the reason, like say, that Collision was made was for CM Punk to keep him away from half of the roster. So like he wouldn't be working with the Elite going forward, Hangman Page going forward, he wouldn't be working with Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, Chris Jericho, all these different things that come into play because CM Punk had time out twice. So we could have even ended up, because the big thing obviously at the time was they were going to run away with the CMFTR that they started to do, and obviously then they redone when they come back, but obviously they were starting to push that, the CM Punk and FTR as a three-way tag. And obviously, like I say, if he's not had the time out injured, and if there's not the animosity between himself and the Elite, then we could have easily had CMFTR versus the Elite for the AEW Trios titles, because obviously at the time when he was first injured they weren't a thing, but obviously they've been talking about it. It'd been rumoured for a hell of a long time that they were going to get the Trios titles in AEW. So we could have even had, as the first match, it could have been CMFTR versus obviously the Elite. And then also following out of that, we could have ended up with a storyline of CM Punk versus Kenny Omega, which a lot of fans wanted to see. And it wouldn't have been surrounded by all the animosity and all the issues that it was surrounded by, because of the issues that I've stated previous. So for me, I believe that a big part of the downfall of CM Punk in AEW does stem from CM Punk originally getting injured and having to sit at home for 8 to 9 months and becoming bitter, and obviously, like I say, all the different things I've stated, I believe would have been a hell of a lot different if that hadn't have occurred. So let me know in the comment section below what you think. Do you think a lot of the situations would have still happened? I mean, who knows? I don't believe they would have, or if they would have, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as bad as what it was. And I believe CM Punk could still be in AEW now. So let me know in the comments, like you say, do you believe that this would have made a major impact on the following situations, obviously, that I've talked about, or whether you think that basically it would have still happened the way it would have, just been a hell of a lot earlier. So like I say, let me know in the comment section what you believe as we look at CM Punk not being injured as AEW World Champion. So as always, thank you for watching. Give me a like, comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and keep an eye out for more wrestling related content coming your way soon.